Welcome back. You're still watching Fut-Afrique. Now, the team off air was asking me exactly as to what's that Timba Zwane song I'll sing. It just shows that they haven't been to the stadium for Mamelodi Sundowns, because you know the song, right?
Yep.
So I'm not crazy. I hope you at home don't think I'm crazy. Let's now talk about the prelims for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. I know it still seems like the Africa Cup of Nations is a mile away, but trust me, time is ticking.
Yep.
And if you blink a bit too hard, you might just miss it. We kickstart with the preliminary round, and this is where teams have to qualify in order to make it into the first qualification batch of matches. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, it is indeed. I mean, if you talk about it, the rankings which were released on the 15th of Feb, therefore decided how the teams are ranked.
Yeah.
So those that are actually outside of the 44, number 45 going down, had to play the prelim round, which is the 8 nations we want to talk about shortly. 4 of them already qualified to join the 44 to make it 48,
yes,
including the host nation, that is Morocco, that goes into the next round, which is the first round of the qualifiers itself. So that's what the story is. But out of the countries that were there, 2 are not there.
Let's talk about those countries, specifically Eritrea and Seychelles, if we're going to be specific.
Seychelles, for an example, pulled out because they want to focus more on the World Cup qualifier, 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. They also want to focus more on the 2024, that is the COSAFA tournament.
And not that I'm judging anything, but why would you focus on a World Cup and not want to conquer your country first?
Maybe they realize they're probably going to be stretched. If you look at it from a financial point of view, you remember that you have these things coming up back to back very closely.
As well.
And also, I mean, maybe they have looked at themselves and said, you know what, let's try and get experience somewhere else and do such different things differently. While the Eritrea one is a different story. It is more politically aligned than anything else. The biggest fear coming from the AFA is that if the players do go out of Eritrea and find themselves playing in these qualifiers, some might flee, not come back. So that is the statement that came out. That is also but it's also a story that is not confirmed by the association, nor by CAF, nor by FIFA. So it's one of those that has been speculated on different places. But they're thinking that they'll probably go and seek asylum somewhere good, and asylum seekers and say, you know what, we don't want to go back there. So that's the problem.
Why are you not buying into my joke?
No, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go for your mom story, because that's more going that but
let's talk about we talk about the FIFA rankings, because that's where we determine who plays what, who gets a bye. Do you think that that's a direct representation of the countries on the African continent as to where they are?
Most of the time I do agree, because if you look at the countries that have found themselves playing in these preliminary round, you're talking about Somalia, Eswatini, South Sudan, Sao Tome Principe, you're talking about Chad, Mauritius, Liberia, Djibouti. Those are most countries where people are going to go and wallop, literally. They're not at the same level as most of the other countries. Because I've seen some countries making massive inroads as they go forward. Mauritania is not here because they made inroads. Previously Mauritania will be sitting around this group of teams or group of nations that are playing at this level. So they have made their job. They've gotten into the right positions. They're looking good now. They're no longer considered as one of those to be playing at this level when it comes to the prelim round. So you start getting yourself sorted out, you start getting there to play with the big boys, you are going to find yourself with the big boys.
You have to earn your spot. Well, the prelims took place from the 20th to the 26th of March, and those nations have now been confirmed. Just confirm for us, Brian.
We have the 4 nations that have actually qualified. Eswatini has gone through, South Sudan has gone through, Chad and Liberia. What is also interesting about Eswatini, they managed to win their away leg by 3-0.
Yep, they had to come back. They had to come back. And that's what we were talking about last week when we said you don't show all your cards, but advantage will be to those who play at home their second leg. Right.
Isn't it?
Let's now turn our attention to the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. As we know that the quarterfinals are officially well in full swing, Brian. It started yesterday, and the action today, a host of matches. I really hope I wasn't going to church after this, but
Tanzania is the place to be. Yesterday it was Simba against Al Ali. Today is Young Africans against Mamelodi Sundowns. That is in the quarterfinal matches. So if you're not in Tanzania, where are you? What are you doing? Oh yeah, kana tabela selalo.
Hey, just selalo Maria Jesu.
So those are some of the matches to talk about. You also have matches that are coming up later on today. We have a match that is between the Sundowns game I mentioned already. TP Mazembe Athletic, that is Petro de Luanda, is coming up in a bit. Because remember, Petro de Luanda finished top in their group, so they're playing their away leg first before they return home. So Lubumbashi is the place to be at 3 p.m. today, because Stade TP Mazembe is the venue to be. Stade TP Mazembe is a crazy place.
And DR Congo in the African Cup of Nations somewhat revitalized Congolese football, right? And it should be interesting to see them playing again.
It is indeed. I mean, I'm looking forward to that game to see what the result is going to be. Petro playing away first. Lubumbashi is not an easy place to go to play your matches. Pirates will tell you. Sundowns will tell you. Absolutely. I mean, they defeated Sundowns there.
I remember Sean was sitting with me and explaining to me that you don't want to be there. It will make you feel like an outsider.
A few years I traveled there when Senzo Meyi was saved. We were not even allowed to bring in our device into the stadium. It's a deep story for another day. Esperance de Tunis up against ASEC Mimosa. That's a later game that's coming up as well. Then you're talking about the CAF Champions League. CAF Comfort Cup. The biggest match to talk about is that Egyptian derby.
Let's talk about
That's one of those will come about. That is talking about Future FC against Zamalek, former champions. We also have Abu Salim up against RS Berkane.
Oh, sorry, before we go, just to remind people at home that Zamalek also wants to regain glory because they didn't win the Egyptian Cup.
The Egyptian Cup. We were talking about it last week. And
we did.
You actually were talking about it a lot. And I don't know why.
Did I?
Do you have some hate thing around Zamalek? Let's move away from that one. Stade Malien is up against Dreams FC, a team that surprised everybody, finishing top in their group. And there's also Rivers United FC up against the defending champions, USM Alger, the first Algerian team to win the CAF Confederations Cup. Can they defend their title is a big question. Those matches are happening on Sunday, which is tomorrow. And then next weekend, we have the second leg, where those teams who are away will be now hosting their respective matches. Starts on a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday. The whole thing is that who will be amongst the top four?
Who will be amongst the top four? And if you are someone who this weekend, for any reason, you cannot be watching these matches, there are highlights. SABC Plus does provide those highlights. So make sure that you hop onto their social media platforms and their platforms to catch the match that you will be missing, because we do understand it is Easter weekend and you possibly will be at church.